Hello, Lena. Welcome to Mr. Quaker's Teaches. I'm Mr. Quakers. In this lesson, I'll be analyzing Elizabeth Brewster's poem, Where I Come From. Now, this poem is part of the 15 poems in your GCSE or IGCSE anthology. And I've analyzed all the 15 poems in the course. Now, the course contains detailed analysis with rolling annotations of all the 15 poems and also predicted questions as well. So the predicted questions are useful. After you listen to the analysis, you can try your hands on the predicted questions to see how prepared you are to answer, questions on the poems. Now, additionally, the course also contains sample A star or grade 9 essays. Now, the usefulness of these essays is that sometimes students have like a fair understanding or more than fair understanding of a poem, but they are unable to write essay questions or write questions that would make them, ace it or get like, very good grades. So the sample A star or grade 9 essays help you look at what to include, for example, in your introduction, how to use conjunctions, if you're using the PEE, PEA, or PEEL, among other systems, how to present your point, your evidence, analyze your points. Now, the sample A star essays also teach you how to use conjunctions to make your writing flow, how to speak about or write about the form and structure of the poem, among other things, and also the conclusion as well. You see, all of these things are relevant if you're looking to get a very good grade in your exams, and these sample essays help you with that. Now, to get access to the course, it's just £5 a month in subscriptions. So just £5 a month in subscription that allows you to get everything, or you can buy the entirety of the course for £45 a year. That means you get to save 3 months or £15 in subscription. So essentially, that allows you the whole year to have access to it. Now, additionally, if you need help in the other components, this is the poetry component. But if you also need help with the other components like the drama, the unseen, or the prose, or even the poetry, we have tuition lessons as well. So group sessions are also one-on-one lessons as well. Now the thing is that for the tuition, at Mr. Quakers Teaches, the first lesson is a trial lesson. So you come into the lesson, you see how the teaching goes. If it's something that works with you, you can book for multiple lessons, even over a short period, so that you can ace the exam. Now, additionally, we also provide tuition as well for the other subjects in your curriculum. So, for example, for English language, history, geography, sociology. We also have teachers that help with the sciences, math, triple science, among others. Again, all of these tuition sessions are all trial lessons. You have a free trial lesson, so you start off with the teacher and see if you like the teaching style, because our teachers have our experience. The minimum is about 5 years of experience teaching the GCS. In fact, some teachers have taught for more than 15 years in terms of the experience, so they know how to help you practice past papers, how to use your time, among other disciplines that you need, exam conditions. So those are things that you can be helped with at Mr. Quakers Teaches. Now, additionally, if you want to reach out to me, maybe you want to send me an email, or you want to ask questions, or you have a query or something, you can send it to Mr. Q at mrquakersteaches.com. That's Mr. Q at mrquakersteaches.com. You can see it's clearly written on the screen. Or you can also send your email to mrquakersteaches at gmail.com. I'll look at it and then reach out to you. Or, if you're a bit, you don't want to go through all the long distance, you can just leave a comment on any of my social media handles where you find this analysis, and then I'll reach out to you and see how best to help you prepare for the exam. Let's begin the analysis. Let's start by speaking about the poet Elizabeth Brewster. So she's Elizabeth Winifred Brewster. She was born on the 26th of August 1922, and then she died on the 26th of December 2012. She was a Canadian poet, author, and an academic. She was also one of the founding members in 1945 of the Canadian literary journal, The Fiddlehead. Now, she's written a litany of poems and other things. You can see it written on the screen. I mean, she's quite rich in terms of contribution to literature, and she was inducted as a member into the Order of Canada, which is Canada's highest civilian honor, in 2001. All right, that's just a brief note on our poet Elizabeth Brewster. Now, this is how the poem appears. The poem is essentially about this speaker who is talking about people's identity, essentially. So people's identity and what constitutes a person's identity, or who a person is essentially. So she talks about how people live, in the urban area, and the effect that it has on them because of the putrid smell there. Then she in the second stanza, she tells the reader about where she comes from, which is quite rural. Has like a farming community where they actually farm or grow blueberries. And then the final part of the poem, that's the third stanza, she talks about the place of the mind. Another place opens and then the thought comes. So that essentially is like a brief summary of the poem. Now, let's begin the analysis by reading the poem, Where I Come From, by Elizabeth Brewster. People are made of places. They carry with them hints of jungles or mountains, a tropic grace or the cool eyes of sea gazers. Atmosphere of cities, how different drops from them, like the smell of smog or the almost not smell of tulips in the spring. Nature, tidily plotted in little squares, with a fountain in the center. Museum smell. Art, also tidily plotted with a guidebook. With the smell of work, glue factories maybe, chromium-plated offices, smell of subways, crowded at rush hours. Where I come from, people carry woods in their minds, acres of pine woods, blueberry patches in the burned out bush, wooden farmhouses old in need of paint, with yards where hens and chickens circle about, clucking aimlessly, battered schoolhouses behind which violets grow. Spring and winter are the mind's chief seasons, ice and the breaking of ice. A door in the mind blows open, and there blows a frosty wind from fields of snow. So that essentially is a reading of the poem. Now, what I've done is that I've sort of reduced it so that I can see it quite legibly. So this is the first stanza, and the first sentence of the poem is a short sentence, reveals a thesis or the main idea or the main claim that the speaker is trying to make. She says people are made of places. That's the main claim. Now, this claim here provides vivid visual imagery of the anatomy of a person. So, being made up of constituents of the places they've been to. So, what you should have in your mind is like, maybe if a person has been to maybe X country, X will be on their head. If the person has been in Y country, Y will be on their hand. Something like that. That's what she means by people are made of places. So, I think of this in my head, this image of somebody whose anatomy has been broken down, and then varied or different parts of their body is made up of the places that they've been to. And I think that the more places that a person has been to, the more the constituent body parts will be broken down. But if a person has just been in one place, then the person is just going to be made up of one kind of place. That's like the image that I see with this short sentence. For me, it provides vivid visual imagery. Now, the second sentence of the poem, they carry with them. Now, you see, there's a third person pronoun that suggests that the speaker is likely referring to the whole of humanity. So they carry with them is the whole of humanity. While carry with them creates the impression that people have it on their persons always. If you carry something, it means it's with you. And that's like the idea that she's trying to make. Now, in the second line of the poem, she says hints of. Now, hints of is another way of saying that people have traces of where they are from or where they've been to. So they have like little details that signals where they've been to. Then she breaks where people have been to into four, right? She lists them actually. So she lists 4 places, but then she uses pairing. So 2 places are paired and then 2 places are paired. Now the first pair is jungles or mountains. Now that groups people into those from areas that have lush, wet forests, that's jungles, or those from mountainous places with high elevation, that's mountains. Then as she continues, she again gives us another 2 pairings. The next 2 pairings are a tropic of grace or the cool eyes of sea gazers. Now that categorizes people into those from idyllic tropical areas. That's the tropic grace, or those from areas very close to the coast. Right, they are very close to the coast to the point that it has affected their physical features. So their eyes have become like sea gazers. They are always looking at the sea. So they have very close proximity to the sea. So that's the second pair. So we see here that she breaks people into people from jungles, mountains, tropic, and then people who are close to the coast. Then, in the first sentence of the poem, she shifts from the general description of where people are from to what happens in the urban area. So, in fact, from this third line to the bottom of line 11, she's speaking about the urban area. And you're going to see that she talks about how the city smells, how it's crowded, among other things. Now, she begins by saying, atmosphere of cities, how different draws from them. Now, this is a powerful comment that shifts the setting to the urban areas of the world and shows the striking dissimilarities in terms of their nature. So the nature of these places, with the 4 earlier mentioned areas that she's spoken about. So the idea that I get here is like, those 4 places that she's mentioned, that's where generally everybody is from, or people can be grouped into. But then people from all of those 4 areas tend to congregate in the cities, and then how different draws from them because they've been in the city. Then she begins to use olfactory imagery and then simile. So olfactory imagery is what kind of imagery? It deals with smell, what you can smell. Now this is really important because in most poems that I've seen, poets tend to use either visual or auditory imagery when they are talking about the city. I think one other poem where I've seen olfactory imagery being used is Mulibriti by Suyata Bhatt. But in this poem, you're going to see, especially in this stanza, you're going to see a lot of mention of the smell. Because, you see, in most instances when you're looking at something on television or you're reading it, you can't smell it. You can visualize it, but you can't smell it. But smell is a very, 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 very important imagery. And she uses here to actual great effect. She says, like the smell of smog. Now, this is the first example of a difference that highlights that there's a mixture of smoke and then fog. So there's a smell of fog in the city. So it attaches itself to city dwellers because I suppose because of the constant pollution of cars and other factories and the rest. So people smell of smog. Then the next thing she mentions is or almost not smell of tulips in spring. Now she's talking about the effect of cities on plants or on nature. Tulips do not burn. They do not smell. They are not able to manifest. Almost. Now this is or the almost not smell of tulips in spring is the second reference to olfactory imagery and an allusion to the smell that attaches itself to those who live close to what is in the city a semblance or a lacking of nature. They are not really living close in nature, but then it has like a modicum of nature kind of. So they have the almost smell, but they don't have the full smell attached to them. And why don't they have it? Because of human action. Possibly because trees have been felled, butterfly habitats have been destroyed, and so there is not proper pollination. In terms of the themes of the poem, we see identity and heritage. So people are the place where people are from is what their identity, where their heritage is from. We also see the differences between urban and rural life and setting. So between urban life and the rural life and then the setting, we also see the themes of thoughts. We also see things like rural-urban migration. You know, somebody who is from the rural area and is gone to the city. And then we see the fecundity or the liveliness of, you know, urban areas versus the ruin of rural areas. So there's this life, multiplication, and you know, a lot of people all over the place. But then rural areas are usually mostly empty, and you can see plants and animals roaming freely. Now, in terms of the point of view of the poem is recounted with the blend of a third person and first person's point of view. So the third person is seen in the words like they, you know, them, and people, and there. All, you know, those are all references to generally humanity. And then the first person is seen when the speaker says, where I come from. So that tells us that she's telling the reader about her heritage, where she's from. Then in terms of the tone of the poem, you see that it's quite, the tone is like teaching, very personal, honest, and very revealing, among other things. I think there's also this sense as well of nostalgia. I don't know what other tones you see, but those are some of the tones that I see in the poem. Now, in terms of the form and structure of the poem, which is vitally important, if you're writing any or answering any essays in the GCSE or IGCSE, you have to write about the form and structure of the poem. So the poem is a free verse poem, evidenced by the lack of rhyme scheme. So the poem does not have a rhyme scheme. It has 21 lines in total. Now, the poem has 3 stanzas as well. So the first stanza has 11 lines, and I think it has 11 or the most lines because at this point, the speaker is speaking about life in the urban area where she lives. So she has, you know, more experience there. Then the second stanza has 8 lines, possibly because, you know, she's been there a bit, but maybe she's lived more in the urban area. Then the final or the third stanza has 2 lines because, you know, she's just talking about her, or writing and speaking about her thoughts. Then, like I mentioned already, the poem, we see the use of indentation in the second stanza, right? So the speaker indents then the second stanza by putting the first word of the first line of that stanza underneath the full stop of the first stanza. Now, a use of indentation creates the impression that all that she said in the first stanza is directly connected to what she's about to say in the second stanza. Then we also see the use of enjambment as well. So we see the flow of words from one line to the next. So from the first line, it flows into the second. From the second, it flows into the third line. So you see that it just flows. And I think it shows the fluidity of the speaker's thoughts and she's very unrestrained. You know, she's not devious or trying to hide things. She wants to be very, very open and free with the reader to make them, you know, understand fully the point that she's trying to make about the importance of identity and how sometimes city life, you know, tries to change the constituents of a person's identity. So here you have it, Elizabeth Brewster's poem, Where I Come From, has been simplified. Now, like I mentioned in the opening portions of this analysis is part of a course, you know, in which I've analyzed all the 15 poems in your GCSE or IGCSE anthology. The course also contains predicted questions and sample A-star essays or grade 9 essays. Now, you can access the course that contains all 15, the analysis of all 15 poems and the predicted questions and sample A-star essays for only £5 a month. And you can find the link in the description. Now, or you can buy the entirety of the course for £45 a year. That means you get to save 3 months in subscription or £15. So that's also, I mean, a good deal as well. So that allows you all the analysis. Now, it's also important when you get the course because you can actually ask questions in the course of the course in the comments section, and then I'll, you know, reach out to you and explain to you if need be. Now, additionally, at Mr. Quickest Teachers, We also provide tuition services as well. So if you need help with the other components of the English literature, like the prose, drama, and scene paper as well, we have group sessions and also one-on-one tuition as well. The first lesson is a trial lesson. So what that means is that you join the lesson and see how it feels. Usually in the course of the lesson, I try to explain whatever things we are doing, and then we attempt an essay so that you see, for example, how to write the introduction, how many minutes you need, and things like that. So we do that as part of our tuition and services. We have group tuition and also one-on-one sessions as well that you can join. Now, additionally, we also provide tuition services for the other subjects in the English or in the IGCSE or GCSE. So English language, geography, history, sociology, math, the sciences, triple sciences. We have teachers that can, with many years of experience, to help you practice past papers, teach you about time, grow your confidence. I tell my students that, if you're confident about the exam, you can move 2 or even sometimes 3 grades up. And I've been teaching people since 2008, so I know how well confidence boosting a candidate's confidence or a student's confidence can help them in ultimately what they achieve. So again, at Mr. Quakers Teaches, we try to improve students' confidence and make sure that they ace the exam or achieve excellent grades. Now, if you have any questions or queries, you can send me an email. The email address is mrq@mrquakersteaches.com. Or you can also send me an email or the email to me to mrquakersteaches@gmail.com. Or you can leave your comments on the comment field of this analysis on any of my social media handles where you see this, and then I'll reach out to you and see how best to help you ace your exam. Until the next lesson, thank you for joining me. Bye.